Hey everybody, welcome back to another super exciting Fireside Chat with me, Natalie, your community manager, and studio founder and all-around boss, Evan Jones.
Yeah, sure. I'll work on titles.
Welcome. As we continue blurring, as we continue to discuss the fate and destiny and all of that super cool stuff surrounding Terrorarium, the game that we're currently working on. So as per usual, this has been an exciting week.
When you last left us.
When last you saw us, we were optimistically about to have another demo playthrough on Friday, which you may all remember did not occur exactly as planned. Not 420 related, remarkably. No, despite everything.
We did make a few wisecracks.
We did, yeah. There was I caught up on the Slack and it was pretty excellent. But we the build that was playable became not so exactly in time for the stream. So that did not happen as planned. It seems pretty fixed now, though, compared to where it was.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I played it at home.
Okay. There you go.
The concept of code freezes, I guess, are useful.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Was the takeaway is that you don't set a 4 p.m. live stream and then develop features till 3:30.
Right, yeah, that seems like a good takeaway, like a good future wisdom.
Yeah,
to keep in mind.
We are racing, right?
Right.
And we wanted to show. I get what happened.
We were very close to something.
It's working. Let's try it.
Right.
Try and add this. Just this one last thing, and then it's just like, and it actually didn't take that long to fix. It was fixed by the night, but it was a mission critical moment that we got too ambitious and learned a lesson.
Right, so instead of trying to, finish that last feature just in the nick of time.
Yes.
Perhaps having something playable sooner than the nick of time. Not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is always the risk of this kind of transparency, right? Is that you're and we've talked about this before, like we have to be willing to have things go not perfectly and be observed. And I don't think that it's.
I think the one thing that I did not like was that we didn't just stream it.
Right, yeah, it's like it's broken. Yeah,
it's totally broken.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on. And just have the camera just running. Is it okay now? What's going on? And that's really what our life was like that afternoon.
Yeah.
And I feel like cameras up at 4 p.m., and it's
whether
just
you're there or not, yeah.
And then we just have to tap dance because that was one of the things that was happening. If you look at the Twitch stream, they were like, something's gone wrong, just stall. And I was in the chat trying to say stuff, but I was thinking nobody's reading this chat. They want to see
But
something.
if somebody's on video trying to stall, suddenly that's much more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with that assessment. I would have, as much as I don't ever want anybody to be in front of a camera having an actual meltdown, on the other hand, might have been kind of differently entertaining.
We have a question from the audience, and I think I know who's asking it.
Oh, yes. When does development of the game trump being ready for a stream? I mean, that's a really good question, right? Because there's we have different internal deadlines and that often that have to be prioritized differently, right? And at the end of the day, our deliveries that are non-negotiable is the pre-alpha build that we're releasing on May Day, and that is obviously that is the deadline that has to be hit. And so as much as we would, our other internal benchmarks, we don't treat them like they're negotiable, but under the cold light of day, if a thing has to give, right? It's that's the deadline. That's the absolute deadline that we currently have to work with.
Well, and I mean, the streaming is new for us.
Sure.
I would love to say, oh well, we missed that deadline. It was kind of an arbitrary deadline. It wasn't really a hard promise we made, and now we need to, what we did the right thing, and we did the right thing, that we didn't stream, and we were just like, we got to just fix it and not bother.
Because fixing it is the thing that's important, right? Like fixing it is.
I'm coming around to maybe being on the devil's advocate side of it, which is, I think that this channel becomes interesting when it's not polished, when it's not.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
It's hard.
Right.
I see a lot of streams sometimes where I'm like, ugh, you didn't do any prep. And
right. And that's not what we're talking about here.
And like, it would have been like, what I'm giving you my time, and you need to have something to say. It would have been a crappy stream to just watch us all freaking out, which is what was happening. But it's also maybe the most real part of what we're doing, and we're trying to show you that it's not that easy, and to see, so that because one of the things that we're really worried about is people like throwing shade at us without really understanding like how much is going into this.
Absolutely.
So that's part of it. It's like we're humanizing ourselves on this project, and we're also like, that's why I was willing to say, we should have just streamed a broken game, or not even a broken game, but a bunch of people sitting there going like, well, because like the problem was not something any of us except for Aaron and Adrian could fix, and so and so it was like all of us were feeling totally helpless, standing there going like, well, we said we were going to do this, but we can't do this. And it's like, we're not even pointing fingers, because it was not, it was just such an accidental thing that happened. But I think that this stream and other parts of our promotion are a part of the game development. And I do agree. Audience development. So that's my counterpoint. And so in answer to the question, when does development of the game trump being ready for a stream, I would say that development of the game and streaming are independently related. Like, they're independent of each other. Right. And the reason we were going to stream was because we thought we would have something. We didn't have something, but we have to assume people want to, they've made time for us in their schedule. So I thought even just popping on and being like, let me give you a 15-minute explanation of like, this thing totally broke. Yeah. Okay. And like,
we can show it to you for 2 seconds so you can see how broken it is.
Yeah. Here it is. Bye. Yeah. This is canceled. Stream canceled. Like, that's the kind of stream I was actually thinking it would turn into. and I think, nobody wants to look like an idiot.
Of course not.
So I get it. Nobody wants to, like, we were all frustrated in that moment, and it's just that's when it's the juiciest camera roll, right? That's, it kind of is. I don't know if I can really talk about it, but we were talking about somebody who might come and do an interview, and I won't say anything more about that. Right. But I knew that the reason that they wanted to come and do an interview is because they want those juicy bits about the conflict and the struggle of that. Is that, like, for them as a creator, it's not going to be exciting for them, their audience, unless they see us kind of raw a little bit.
And like, I get the fact that like everybody getting along and just doing a great job all of the time isn't necessarily like good television in a way. And I feel like we are kind of blessed in that, like, there's not a lot of drama, like there's not to focus on in terms of a like narrative standpoint. Like, there is,
it may not be television drama,
it's
but
not television drama.
I feel the drama.
You feel, I mean, and I'm sure that you have a different view of that than I do. I suppose I just mean, like, there's not a ton of like personality conflict. It's much more like man versus environment than it is like, you know what I mean? Like it's much more like trying to make this thing, and the limitations are sort of like everybody's own skill set and their own, like bonking into like technology and time. I also think that like we are putting out a counter narrative in a lot of ways to the sort of like traditional game dev cycle narrative of like intense crunch or right? Which is not to say that we're not all like working our asses off. That's for sure like a thing that's happening, but like no one here is being asked to like sacrifice their entire life and health and well-being to make this thing. Like we've made sure that we have time, and we like build in time for people to be humans. And I think that like that's a really necessary counter narrative to a lot of the like, especially like stories that are appearing right now about like, oh, this game studio is like, they missed a deadline, so they're like promising people that they're like pulling 90-hour work weeks in order to get this thing done or whatever. Like I don't want anybody to do that to make me a game. Like I don't want that to be the case. I don't want people to be living that like ridiculous lifestyle, and for sure like nobody here wants to put each other through that either.
The unfortunate thing that I heard today was that if we get like our dream scenario, which is that a platform and a publisher want our game for mass production, mass distribution, that their demands assume that. Really? That like that like assume that kind of a work life. They would just schedule. Be like, we love it, we're ready to sign. Here's 15 new features that you have to get done, and they've got to get done in the next 3 weeks. Right. Or the deal's off. Right. So like, what do you do? Yeah. I mean, that's gonna be terrible. Yeah. That's intense. That's a moment. I guess. I mean, there's two obvious choices. Maybe you've got a third. What is that? The Kobayashi Maru story? Right. This is the story of like, well, option one. Okay. You see the dream in front of you. If we do this for the next 3 weeks. Right. And we all do this ridiculous schedule and like. So, then, you know, even if you have to pay the overtime or whatever, you do it, right? You do the thing. You crunch because that's the way the crunch goes, and that's why people do it. Right. And then you get the thing at the end, hopefully. And then the publisher is happy, or in your hellscape, the publisher just used that as a carrot to dangle to the next crunch or something, and then you find yourself in that loop. Right. But let's assume it's not. Like it's a one-time thing. Right. And it is actually the one-time thing. Yeah. Let's just do it. Yeah. The other option is to say, I'm not willing to do that, and I am willing to walk away from this deal. Right. Which is crushing the dreams of many people for the past many months. Right. Not just our team, but hopefully the player fans that we have out there. That's... So, is there a Shatner way out of this? I mean, refuse to play the game or something? Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a great question. Like, how do you respond to an industry that expects that as an industry standard when it is, in most cases, not a reasonable expectation? But like, and how? But how are you going to change the industry yourself? Right. And I don't know if like our wee team of like however many people, like we're very, a very, very small studio can necessarily do that. I'd end up writing a really well-read Medium post. Yeah. About like the time that I stood up to the man. And it would be read 1,000 times and it would be like, yeah, but you're still broke. Yeah. And you still don't have that publishing deal, right? Like that's the sort of thing. That's a really great question, and I don't necessarily like know what the answer to that is. Like I don't know. Like I don't know how to like, because it doesn't necessarily, as much as we sort of like see those like everybody still does it, like it's still for the most part like the practice that is in place. What I heard today is that even the companies that don't do it
right.
get forced to do it.
Right. Yeah. If they want
that's the disheartening
right.
information I took away.
That's too bad.
I had some great meetings today.
Yeah, that you wanted to talk about.
I'm happy to talk about them.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about them.
I know that some of our team are actually watching this stream, and
Usually
prepare yourself for the kinds of like I've never heard you say that before.
Right.
Kind of
so
moments.
this is basically a team meeting that we're having right now, broadcast live for all of you to take in as well.
Yep.
So I'm learning this along with all of you, I assure you.
One thing that's kind of was a safer thing was talking about that we might need to drink our own Kool-Aid on story world stuff.
Okay.
And that is that right now, because Terrorarium doesn't have a ton of narrative in the gameplay itself right now, we've set it up like with a framing narrative.
Yeah.
Like, our gardener wants to win the blue ribbon at the Horticultural Society, and we'll stop at nothing to kill lots of invasive species to get that prize. So that I love it.
Right.
What they were saying today was we need to take that even further. We need to say, what would the pitch document look like for the television show? Oh,
all right.
Like, what does this franchise look like?
What does this transmedia property look like?
The graphic novel work for this concept. Give us a sample page of it, and that it would change the way that we're thinking of this. Is that this property right now is a game, but has the opportunity to be many other things, and that the same way that we are working on like 2 games right now, and thinking like, well, even if one of them hits, then it's going to be awesome.
Right.
Maybe it's the way of saying, well, Terrorarium as a brand could hit in another platform,
right,
as well as this one, and that the 2 would support each other in a big way. So, I mean, that might be work that I want to think about.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Another to-do list item. But it also may be better to inform right now we've got the gardener, and we've got this just unseen character, Dolores, that we refer to in our game design document. But writing like a 1-page treatment for a series would force somebody to actually think about like, what are the adventures of these space
characters.
grandmas out here, and that would feed back into the game. That now being established helps the canon of the game be stronger.
Right.
So it was interesting.
No, that's interesting. That's for sure. And like thinking of a narrative across different platforms definitely illuminates something about that narrative every single time you transport it over into a different format. So I feel like even if all it does is give us a better idea of what in fact our game narrative is. Sorry.
It's very warm in here.
All right.
Sitting next to Natalie's.
I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm like a human heater. No, it's true.
All right.
Like a nuclear reactor. So it's very small nuclear reactor.
The transmedia as a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, okay, that sounds familiar, like something I would probably have said at a conference or something. But
somebody's just like citing some of your work back at you. It's like, right, franchising.
I'm also aware of a talk that I saw from The Walking Dead, which really, really pushed the idea that yes, The Walking Dead was a large story world, but it only was franchise because something hit, like one of them hit.
Yeah.
If it was not for the comics, the graphic novel side of it, it wouldn't have ever done any of the other things.
Right,
and so it wasn't like, don't try to just spread yourself thin.
Right.
And be like, yeah, we're also doing this and also doing this. Like, give yourself just enough to like see if there's any interest there.
Right.
But don't spread yourself thin on the whole thing.
No, for sure. I think I saw that presentation too.
It
was at iVentures. Yeah, I believe I was also there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the takeaway from there that was really interesting was like the comic established the narrative first and like had much in the same way that like Game of Thrones used to be a Song of Ice and Fire, a series of books that only nerds like I read, right? Like in the ancient times before it became like everything else that it is. So having a property that has a base and then like I think there's arguments all over the place there for sure.
I'm juggling with that.
Sure, an interesting idea.
The other was for us to check in about the alpha testers.
Right. So we were talking about this. We just very briefly chatted about this, but
Fireside chat 1 week ago today.
Yeah.
Do you remember what we said was our success metric?
I do. I absolutely do. Evan, you told me that if we hit 250 people, you would be thrilled.
Yeah, by April 30th.
By April 30th, you would be thrilled. And at that moment, I was like a little nervous about it because we were at like 137 or something like that. We were which is like already was more than I expected, right? We were sitting around like somewhere between a dozen and 25. I was really hoping for 50. Then we had an alpha beta gamer, one article come out, and like suddenly we got like over 100 people. And I was like...
In one day.
And I was like over the moon about that. Like I was super happy. And we talked about it on stream. You said 250. And I was like, I wonder if that's a little ambitious. But like I did. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to sustain this like upward growth, right?
Yeah.
So what's happened in the week since then is that a couple more relatively small articles have gone out in the world.
I guess not. I mean, there's communities of websites that talk about open alphas.
Absolutely.
And we didn't know that they all existed.
Right,
Alpha Beta Gamer was one.
Alpha Beta Gamer was a Go. Yeah, Go Games is another. There's another it's like
.io
something.io. It's not
Game
in my
stream or something
like that. But again, it's another.
Sorry,
I'm so sorry, but it's another community of like gamers who specifically seek out alpha and pre-alpha and beta testing and sign up for them, and we have been picked up by that community in ways that we were not expecting, and now we have well over 3,000 people signed up on our list. I actually think it's like 3,600. Is that?
It's 3,700.
37 now.
It's 3,700 people
have signed up
that we don't know
for our pre-alpha. We know a few of them, but not many. And and it's like considering where we were a week ago to where we are now. Is kind of staggering, and now what we were originally thinking would be a very small pre-alpha pool, mostly of people we had direct contact with in the past, who we knew would probably be open to conversations about like what they liked about the game, what they wanted to see more of, the direction that they wanted to see it in, a sort of a very small focus group style relationship. Right. We now have a list of closing in on 4,000 people who have signed up for the pre-alpha. So our strategy for how we are going to engage with that list and that potential pool of people has to change, and we're not sure yet in what that looks like.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
know you have some ideas.
Well, I had a conversation today that was like saying, you know, how many people can actually like help you? You know, like at what point do you lose the ability to help? And so, I don't know. I've very much heard, you know, what we were talking about. We feel like we have not done a good job of putting a limit on the number of people that are going to be playing this game in May. And
because we didn't think we needed to. Honestly,
we never imagined it would go above 200. We were excited about 250.
Right. And if that happened, that was a manageable number, right? Like even at the 250 mark, like that was a super manageable number. But now I don't super know how to manage that
So the first test that we're going to do
Mm-hmm.
is we're going to send them a note and say, are you a real person?
Right,
essentially. And that's because we've had experiences in the past with MailChimp lists and that they get spammed. And I do not...
Sure.
I think the idea is that if they're on MailChimp lists, like it helps to up like the spam credibility, like
of that particular address or whatever.
That because it exists on those addresses, it must be real.
Sure. And we certainly have like strategies in place to try and prevent this. We have double opt-ins, like we are, to the best of our abilities, filtering these lists, and we have still ended up with these numbers despite that.
We start with the assumption that they're all real people.
Right. Starting there.
Although we're going to have to test that. And the test is that step one, we're going to be sending out a survey. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where the advice has come in today. Right. Which is that we might want to be more explicit in that survey. It's because we only get one chance to really get in touch, because once we've given over the game, it's like, well, then we're just like, we're asking for you to please be generous with your feedback. And I know you're all going to be generous with your feedback, but I also am aware that some people might not be answering us afterwards. So we're going to make a gate that says you have to answer this to get the game. Mm-hmm. And that will probably reduce our numbers. And I don't know if it's going to be like 3,500 or 350.
Right, yeah, who knows?
It's could be anything on there. So we're going to get that wake-up call about how many are humans. And then right now what we're asking them are things like their gender, pronouns, their gaming interests. Right. And what we might need to do is make it more about, like, for instance, being explicit about what they can share. Because we don't have any policy right now about, like, we're asking people not to share the download. Of the actual game. Right, we're going to hand out individual keys. This is like, please do not give this download to anybody else. But is there anything that we don't want people to share? Like, can they stream it on Twitch? Their own channels. So. Yeah. I mean, I've got you already convinced that there's nothing to hold back. And I cannot, like, if anybody wants to take screenshots or stream a playthrough or like, what about if somebody really has a lot of criticism of the game and instead of sending that to us privately chooses to publicly post that? I mean, I don't feel like here's my impulse, and I'm willing to be wrong about this. And my impulse is, I don't think there's a problem with that. Like, if somebody plays our pre-alpha demo that we have made clear is like a pre-alpha, and we want people to help us figure out what this is going to be. Like, this is, as far as we are all concerned, and you've said this repeatedly, that this is part of the creative process. Like, we're asking for collaborators as much as we're asking for play testers. You have very interesting and I think very good ideas about audience relationships, which is like, you can ask your audience to help you make the thing and decide what the thing is. And we are in a very real way asking people to do that. So to me, somebody who's just like, well, I hate this thing, is very specifically opting out of that process. And like, okay, so you hated it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there are always people who aren't gonna like the thing that you do. Like, as somebody who's like made art, both of us are, like, there are for sure people who hate stuff we've made, and they are for sure 100,000% entitled to that opinion. I mean, it would suck if we had, like, if someone posted on their blog about how they hated this pre-alpha and it sucks, and that was the one and only review we have for the first, like, however many weeks of Terrorarium's life. And I for sure see that, but like, if we were only sending this to journalists, then I feel like you can send an embargo,
like that's a thing that you can do. That's an industry standard thing that you can do. But if you're asking people for feedback, you're kind of asking them for your opinion. And I really do feel like people can put that opinion on whatever platform that they want. So as much as it would be unfortunate to have somebody like hate it or whatever, or like have a bad experience with it, or you know what I mean, like they download a thing and it doesn't work and they're bummed and they post, or they just like are expected a different thing than what we delivered. That would be unfortunate. But I don't feel like, because we have been so clear about what it is we're making, where we are in that process, like where it would be a problem is if we had been disingenuous, you know, and it's like, oh, we're delivering this 100% like perfect thing, right? That we don't, and somebody's disappointed with that.
So here's a suggestion.
Okay.
Is that, do you think we could put like in the survey, something that says, if I'm going to write about this publicly, I agree to copy and paste these 2 sentences into anything that I write. Like, for instance, and the sentences would be, Terrorarium is in a pre-alpha stage and by no means finished. I got access to this copy very early on. And, you know, something like that, so that it gives them a chance to like explain that in a way that they don't even have to manufacture themselves. I mean, or is that being too patronizing?
I honestly think that like that data exists in the world already. Do you know what I mean? Like anybody who does any research on us, for 2 seconds, it's going to be very obvious at what stage in the production that we're in. There is no part of the information that exists about Terrararium that indicates we're anything but in pre-alpha, right? So I don't feel like, I feel like you could include like a statement in there that's simply like, you know, which can be a tick box that's like, I understand that Terrararium is presently in a pre-alpha state, that the final game may be extremely different from the game that I play right now, and that I'm what I am experiencing is something that is unfinished and in fact at the beginning of its life. Like just like having them acknowledge that is, I think, cool, but I'm not sure you can ask somebody to like make sure you include this specific data.
It's really just them saying I understand or something.
Right, like I understand. I understand. Because like you can't ultimately you can't control what people choose to put out in the world, or like how they decide to respond. But I think you can give the best possible platform for that to take off from, which I do think we're doing a pretty good job of doing, right? Like that involves like having accurate, up-to-date information about who we are and what we're doing out in the world, which we do. You know, that means like supplying people with copy that's necessary, right? Which we have copy on our website. We have descriptive copy.
People have written great articles
about it. Absolutely. And they've done so by reading that accurate information that exists in the world. So I feel like our best bet is just making sure people have access to that data, and giving them the best chance to do it, and including a detail in that survey that's simply says something like, I acknowledge this is not a finished product. I know the final might be very different. I think puts people just sort of is a very, and making them opt into that is a concrete reminder of the stage in the development we're in, and how much we do need that feedback, as well as, and I would hope make somebody approach it with a more generous spirit, but at the same time, like I feel like attempts to overly control messaging there's no way we can actually control, like we can ultimately do that. And I think that, you know, we're going to do better with kind of just giving everything the best shot that we can, and, you know, letting people who hopefully also believe in the project run with that to the best of their abilities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I came out of a meeting that was a trusted advisor, and it was very, very risk averse. And the reason was because of that negative initial review was that the argument that was made is that no matter how many times you say it, people don't have the ability to separate works in progress from final products.
Right.
We've seen that with some clients where, they focus on the one placeholder text or something, and they're like, well, that text isn't right. And you're like, that's exactly the point.
Right.
Look at all the other things, but I mean, that lorem ipsum exists to be like obfuscated that way. So we've been there, and it's just a question of like, do we believe it all the way? I mean, it was advice that was like, you're making a terrible mistake, and so like we are on track to have 4,000 beta testers. Yeah. The advice I got was that we should cap it at 10. Right.
So this is what I said earlier, and I'm going to repeat it here, which is if we were going to cap it, we should have capped it before we said to the earth, right, that we were going to release it to people who signed up for it, right? And my concerns now from a community building perspective, again, not that I think that like everyone on the earth is going to care profoundly, but some people might, that we have made a public commitment to that we are doing a thing, and we've made a public commitment to people who have in good faith signed up to be a part of something potentially. Again, like assuming all of those are real actual humans, like we've asked them to do a thing, they have done it, and they have in a very real way like exchanged information, right, in this particular case, their contact information for to be a part of this demo and to gain access to it. And that is the bargain that we have publicly struck, because it's what we decided to strike in previous conversations. And if we are choosing now to do a different thing, I do feel like we risk damaging the integrity of that community building we have done so far, because like we won't be upholding our part of the bargain, because I agree we did not expect this kind of a response. We got it. We now have to figure out how to manage it. But my feelings, again, speaking specifically from a community building perspective, is like we made a deal with people, and they have honored their part of that deal. And I think that like having a gate where we're like, okay, like please fill out this survey so we know who you are and what data we're getting this from, so that we can we know how to correspond with you in a way that makes sense, and we know how to address and organize your feedback, I think is totally reasonable. Like having that kind of filter there. But completely saying like, hey, actually, like we have decided we're only selecting 10 of you, right?
So
what I
get it. I hear it.
Like that's my art.
So
interrupt away.
Jump in. Right now, we are still giving that same message. We're on track to 4,000. I feel like we may be smart to pivot at this point. And the pivot in our public messaging is continue to sign up on this mailing list for future releases of this and updates about our releases and the potential to be on our testing list. And to, when we're making that public promise, to now like tweak that to say, hey, great news, guys, we hit our first 4,000. That's enough right now. And if you want to get on the waiting list, the waiting list starts now.
Starts here.
And so my question then is there somewhere in between there, like in between 10 and 4,000, that
makes sense?
Is still the promise that we made? Did we make that promise to all 4,000 right up until this moment? Until the moment when you flip the switch? Because I'm worried tomorrow night or tomorrow morning you're going to get in the office and be like, now I'll just change it to waiting list, and it'll be 5,000.
No, you're not wrong, right? Like you're definitely like, because I hear you on this.
If it does what it did last week, we'll be at 20,000. Like It's
right. Like
it's ludicrous how fast this thing rose.
It really is, and
in 6 days we went on track to 200 to now 4,000.
To now, like, very, very quickly.
It's squared.
And could that happen again?
Yeah.
So I personally would feel completely comfortable going online like today and saying like on our Twitter account, like, so the response to our signups has been bananas. Like, thank you so much to everybody who has done this. We're going to have to close pre-alpha signups now for the May 1st. Please continue to sign up for it. Yeah. Everybody from here on out will be on a waiting list, and we'll be
doling it out.
You know, like, we will be rolling out like future alpha and beta testing. Like, we will be in touch with you, but like, we need to cap it here. I think that's 100% fine. I also think we can then go to the first like 4,000 people on our list and say like, okay, like, thank you so much. So more people signed up than we expected. So we will be starting May 1st, rolling out pre-alpha keys in batches. Yeah. So that we can like
digest it.
Absolutely, you know? Because like there is no way we can take in 4,000 alpha surveys and process them on any sort of timeline that makes sense. But I would say like we can go to the, you know, on May 1st, we can email, and I'm pulling this number like literally out of the air right now. Like 9 a.m. May 1st, we email 100 people, right? We email the first 100 people and we say like, here's,
I can go in,
right? Yeah. Sure. Here is your survey. Here, you know, as soon as you fill it out, you will get your key. We do a batch, right? And we decide like they have 72 hours before we do the next one, right? And we stagger that.
Of that is not because I want to be a jerk, but because I actually think we could improve our own surveys. Because we might get answers to things in the first 100 where we're like, oh, wow, we needed to ask this question.
We for sure need to ask this question.
And we didn't ask it, and now we have to send another batch with another version of like trying to tweak what we're asking people.
Totally. So instead of doing that to 4,000 poor people, like we'll start with 100, we'll see what we get back. In the first, decide on a timeline and then like roll it out in chunks, right? And we can increase or decrease that number. That's fine. And again, like I'm going to be processing those feedback surveys, both the initial one and also the post-game feedback. Yeah. So I for sure am very happy to have that be in chunks of things, right? Like that's fine.
And now you're going to be coming to the meetings with ammunition.
Right, and saying like, hey everybody, this is we have 27 surveys back and this is what everybody hates. So fix it, you know, like that's incredibly valuable data. Again, like from a collaborative and community building. Like we want to build a game that you like, so you need to tell us what you like about the game and what you want changed about the game because we can in very real ways do that, right? So
I think somewhere in that, I don't know if it's 100. We'll see what the numbers come back because the first survey is going to be, "Are you human?" Right. We'll see how many people are for real.
Are for real.
And then we're going to figure out some kind of a system where we're not holding it back much, but we're figuring out our own what we want to ask.
Right. For sure.
Our
Absolutely.
Own question.
And I'm totally fine.
The controversial topic that came up in a meeting today is, do you do it in order of the people who signed up, or do you ask in the survey, the first survey, the Are You Human survey, to say, why do you deserve to be in the first batch? And
that's very interesting. Like, so we send that like initial Are You Human survey out to everybody, right? To literally every person, probably with an intro that's like, hey BT dubs, like way more of you are here than we expected. So fill out the survey for sure to show us that you're human because like you're not going to hear from us again otherwise. Thing the first. Thing the second, like we are like, if you want to be in our pre-alpha, we need to know you're actually going to do this thing with us.
Because if we send it to 100 and then we get back 5 responses,
right,
then we made a mistake. We should have sent it out to 200.
Right.
So the most valuable feedback are the people who are going to be engaged enough to even just write like a sentence that just says like, you know, I've tested 2 alpha games already.
Sure.
You know, like that's the kind of answer where I'd be like, oh, they already have experience with what an alpha test looks like.
Sure. Or like, I'm interested in getting into QA. Great. Of course I want to talk to you. Or like, whatever. Or like, I just really play.
Now we're giving you the secrets.
Sure.
If you watch this long.
If you, I will tell you how to get into all of them. Like, I don't care. For sure watch. But those sweet views, give them to me. Or like, I'm curious about, like, I'm making my own game and I'm curious about process and want to like see an early build of something. Great, 100%. I'm in. I want you to be there. I'm a games journalist. Sure.
If we get back stuff and it's just like, I want a free game or something, like then first of all, you're going to be disappointed. This is not the right time for us to
right.
This is going to be way better when we're
later on.
Later. And so don't take this one thinking that this one's ready for you.
Sure.
Anyway, we'll have to figure out what we do in there.
We'll have to figure out, but I think there's something there. Like, I think we've like hashed out something that makes sense. I also think that like we can ask people like for like, again, in that initial survey, like, do I like, what part of this process do you want to be a part of, right? Like, that's what, like, I want the earliest pre-alpha to, like, I want a more polished alpha release. So
Send it to me when it's got a fully finished level or something.
Right, yeah. Like, at what stage in this process do you, when all, right, or none?
That would be a great question.
I think that would be a good question.
Because you could make drop-downs and categorize people of, like, I just wanted to be on the mailing list so that I found out when it was released.
Sure,
you know, because like all of those different personalities.
Yeah. Like, what do you want from this?
And people can declare like, I want to play an unpolished test game.
Right. That's interesting. And in which case, we will send you the earliest demo then, or if it's something more like, you know, like then we can give, and then we're giving people what they want. Right. And I feel like somebody who said like, no, I super want to play this unfinished game so I can give feedback, like that person's going to give great feedback. Right. Like those are the people that we want. So I think that what I've learned from this conversation is that like, obviously we need to revisit that intro survey. I'll rewrite that for sure. But I think that like, I think the takeaways here are, we need to cap the signups and we need to cap it right now. Like literally when we're done this conversation, I'm going to make an announcement on social media that like we are
I can go check the real-time numbers
now, as of this moment, and that anything after like you please like totally still sign up, you'll still be on our mailing list, but like 3,697.
Yeah, and it says that we're on track at the subscribe rate. We're on track to hit 5,000 by the end of the week.
Well, so great, but it's real. There it is. Oh, Jesus Lord. So great, but like we need to cap for the earliest pre-alpha. Like we're capping it now.
Waiting list from now on.
And like that doesn't mean we won't be in touch, but you're for sure on the waiting list as of this moment.
I don't think that's a bad message to send. It shows all the people are interested. But
no, I don't think it's a bad message to send at all, but I just like again, I think it's totally cool we're capping it now, but I think if we're doing this thing where we're doing everything in public, we need to be like very transparent about every stage of it. And like we have had people give us their contact information, a not unvulnerable thing to do, expecting that they're going to get a game. Yeah. So I think that we still need to, for the people who have signed up, expecting that, we need to do something. And I feel like we've just figured out a way to do that probably in a way that makes sense.
Great meeting, Natalie.
Great meeting. Yeah. Great meeting that we just, woo, done. No problem at all.
This is how the soup gets made around here. This is how we do it.
But I do feel like that maintains our like community integrity and like builds that relationship and is also like something we can handle, you know, like something that we have the capacity to do at least medium well, you know?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, that's all my notes I have.
No, that sounds good. Well, we've been talking for almost an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost 5:30. So unless there's anything else burning now, I think we can probably say good night. And
the next time
everybody.
you see us in a fireside chat, we are going to have released something. That is
the next fireside chat is day after May Day, is May 2nd.
Yes.
So
we will be on the other side of this moment, and we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm sure it'll be fine. We have exciting stuff coming up this week in the sense that on Friday we're hoping to have a much smoother do-over where we show people where we're at.
Oh yeah. Effectively
at release. We do have Monday, I guess, but really by Friday, that's where we're going to be, that's the effective state of the game. So giving everybody a little peek at what we're doing there, a little bit of a more structured stream. So that's exciting. And then, as of Tuesday, we're pulling, we're sending something out into the world to somebody. It's gonna be there. That's release day. So
all right,
it'll be pretty. The next little bit is gonna be pretty exciting around here. So stay with us.
All right,
we're having a pretty good time.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.